Hey, welcome back everyone to another devlog on Carry Me Melody. So in the last devlog I made a song with lyrics for the first time and I got some really nice responses. Some people were analyzing the lyrics, they were kind of seeing what this could mean for the story of the game, and while their ideas weren't always right, it did give me a lot of nice ideas to put into the game myself. And one of these ideas I really wanted to work out, but it was still fresh in my mind, so that's what I did. So I drew up some pixel art of this idea that I had in my head. So you can see this environment is kind of a orchestral hall or a library, kind of a big open space. And I'm not sure where I got the inspiration for this space, it's just what I had in my mind. And I wanted to find some actual references because sometimes it's pretty hard to visualize the idea you have in your head. So these are some of the references that I found. It's all pretty big open spaces, and the thing I saw first of all was that it's all really warm. It feels really warm. Maybe it's because of the lights or maybe it's just because of the color. But since I don't actually use any lighting technology in my game, I don't have any lights or anything like that. I just have to do it solely on the colors. So I had to get some orange in there, but since I use the NES palette, I only have like 2 shades of orange. So it was a really big challenge to translate this kind of warm feeling to pixel art with the NES palette. So this is the first version of this environment that I drew up. I had a lot of trouble with the colors, so I decided just to skip out on the colors altogether and just make it grayscale and then later map the colors. So this was kind of the atmosphere I was going for. You can see there's kind of a sense of depth and I wanted to add these balconies. And yeah, once I finished all of this, I wanted to add the colors. So this is one of the first colors that I did, and yeah, you can see it's kind of flat. It's not exactly what I was going for. There's not the sense of depth that you saw in the grayscale sketch. So then I tried a bit lighter and you can see there is a sense of depth here, but it's kind of lacking the warm feeling that you saw in the references. And then I tried something different altogether. It's kind of a brown background and I do like this dark atmosphere. It's not what I'm going for, but I was planning to also add a dark version at some point. And yeah, it looks pretty cool, but I kind of cheated on the brown color in the background. This brown color is not actually part of the NES palette, so I had to scrap this one. And yeah, I experimented with a lot of different ones, but in the end I ended up with the one you see here. So without using any lights, I think I managed pretty decently to get this warm feeling just by using a lot of orange. So the next part was to make the technical side of things. The main part of this environment is the spiral of mirrors that's kind of gonna rotate around the player, and it's supposed to look really dramatic because something really epic is gonna happen in this environment. So I had 2 ideas. One was just pure 2D and kind of fake the depth and kind of fake the 3D element, and one was to just actually use 3D. So I actually used processing, which is kind of a digital sketching environment, kind of a programming sketching environment. I'm not sure how to say it, but it's really easy to draw things quickly. So here you can see the 2D version, and while it doesn't look too bad, it's not entirely what I'm going for. So then I made the 3D version, and yeah, you can see that while it does look a bit more flat, I have to work on that. The sense of depth is just much better. And I also added some keyboard shortcuts just so I could play with the settings and get something that I really liked. So once I was done with this, I actually had to move this over to Monogame, which is the framework I'm using in my own engine. This is using a completely separate technology. It's even a different programming language, so I had to redo it from scratch in my own engine. So this is the implementation in the game. You can see the mirrors rotating around the player. There's one part that's still missing, and that's where the mirror actually faces the player. I'm having some trouble with this because I'm mixing 3D and 2D, and you have to do some weird matrix math, and I really suck at that. But fortunately someone is gonna help me with this. So I haven't actually shown you guys my new editor yet, so making the spiral just the way it is in processing might be a good short tour through my new editor. So I made a new editor with a whole new GUI, so we can inspect this spiral object, and then here is the spiral component, and we can change all the properties. So the first thing we want to do is add more mirrors. There's just 5 right now. So if we look up here, it's not a spiral, it's just a single row. So we want to add more mirrors, and we can create a mirror like this. We have to create the subtexture that we want, and even though it's not visible right now, we also have to change the backside, since eventually the mirror will rotate around the player and it will show this backside graphic. So then we can call this function through the editor, which adds a new mirror, and you can immediately see it starting to freak out a bit, but yeah, we're gonna just keep adding mirrors, and we'll change these settings later. So this circle number means the amount of objects that are in one circle. So let's first change the spiral factor, which determines how tall the spiral is. Right now it's 0, which means there's no spiral at all. So if we change this value, you can see it becomes a spiral. So this number 19 is the distance between the mirrors vertically. But yeah, we have to move it back up, and we can also use the editor for that. We'll just change the local position here. And you can see it's still a bit too low. There's a mirror here. Let's move it up a tiny bit more. And yeah, it's starting to look a bit more like a spiral. It still looks a bit strange, and I think that's because there's not enough objects rotating on the same height. They are all distanced too far, so it doesn't look like a spiral. So that's why we changed this circle num value. And yeah, this looks more like a spiral. So let's see what happens if we up this value even more. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good, but I think, yeah, this is a nice amount of spacing. Or maybe this, I'm not sure. Let's just keep it at this. So if we look up here, it's starting to look more like a spiral, but there's still a sense of depth missing. So I want to change this Z radius value, which kind of stretches the circle in this Z axis. And now you can see these mirrors are really close and the back mirrors are further away, and it really adds a lot of depth to the spiral. It might be a bit too extreme for a 2D game, but I think because it is 2D and you don't expect this 3D effect, that it adds more power to the effect. So there's some other things we can play with. There's the X radius, which changes the radius in this axis, the Z axis. And then the Y radius, which is up and down. And I still want to play with this circle num value just to get the best result. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with how this looks. I think there's still some things to do, like rotating the mirrors, and I also want to add some reflections, but that's going to be really difficult. I'm not sure if I will be able to do that, but I will see. For now, I'm pretty satisfied with this. One other thing is, it's kind of a bummer that you can't see the whole spiral. I mean, seeing a really long spiral like we saw in processing, that's really cool. But since my game's resolution is pretty low, if you zoom out, it doesn't look very good. So I might actually change the resolution just for this scene, just so you can get a better view of all these mirrors. So yeah, that was it for this week. I got kind of distracted. I know I should do more gameplay stuff, but I had this idea in my head and I know I had to make it now while it was still vivid in my head, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I'm glad I did take this distraction and made this scene. And yeah, hopefully it was interesting to see something more visual. Lately I've been doing a lot of songs and stuff, and this is probably a bit more interesting to see. Let me know what you guys think of this new environment. Do you think the 3D looks kind of weird? Or do you think I should change the mirrors to a square mirror? Or yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. And if you have any sort of suspicion what this scene might be, what might happen here, because something really epic is gonna happen here. And I'm curious if you guys will actually guess what will happen here. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon.